Hello, fellow beings of light, and welcome to episode 6 of the Your Goddess Awakening podcast. In today's episode, we are wrapping up our theme for the first half of winter, reset. Over the last 6 weeks, we have been working on resetting ourselves, as well as our conscious and unconscious perspectives, our agreements, our alignments, our attachments with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us. In prior episodes, we have covered alignments and agreements. That leaves only one A left, attachments. Joining us for our discussion on attachments will be not who stepped forward when the theme and these episodes were being planned out. No, instead it is Kuan Yin, which I suppose makes sense, as her role when it comes to all of us is assisting us in the ascension process. Something that inherently requires that we let go of our earthly attachments. Now, just like there were two main types of agreements back in episode 4, there are two main types of attachments. The first type are outcome-based, external attachments, while the second type are expectation-based, internal attachments. Both have a substantial impact on the experience that you have in general, as well as in your relationships and when it comes to work and your goals and everything and anything in between. Both also have a substantial role to play when it comes to manifestation, a concept with deep roots in the remembrance and reawakening process, the expansion and ascension process, a concept that, like many others with similar deep roots, has been turned into a buzzword that is being taught and used in ways that are often misguided. I'm hopeful that by the end of this episode, you will not only be more aware of how and where you may have gotten off track when it comes to attachment, as well as manifestation, but able to move forward, viewing and using these concepts in ways that are helpful instead of hindering in your journey. With that said, let's get into outcome-based external attachments. We live in a world where we have learned to, and are encouraged to, jump from one goal to the next, always moving upwards to some unknown that we have been convinced is bigger and better. If we paused, stopped to take the time to really think about what that means, though, we would realize that it is a never-ending cycle, that there is no end game, nothing that will ever be big enough or better enough, nothing that will ever fulfill us as long as we are stuck in that cycle. What kind of life is that? Is that really the kind of life that you want to lead? Not quite sure about your answer yet? Let's get into what you are missing out on along that never-ending cycle. The journey. True enjoyment and appreciation of the steps you are taking, the achievements you are making, that which you are learning and receiving, and those whom you are meeting and interacting with. You are so focused on what is next that you are missing out on right now. You are not giving right now, this moment, the energy, the attention, and when it comes to yourself and others, the love that it deserves. And if you are still not seeing what you are missing out on, know that it is during the journey, not the outcome, and during the right now, not the future, that you truly receive. That you receive messages from your team of guides and from Source. That you receive the full force of your connection to all, to Source. That you receive the remembrance of who and what you are. That you receive what your abilities are and how to use them. That you receive what you are meant for, what your mission is. That you receive support and guidance. That you receive cleansing and healing. That you receive the time and ability to process and feel. That you receive love from others and, more importantly, from yourself. That you receive what is meant for you. Now, I don't know about all of you, but the list of 10 things I just ran through and everything that could possibly expand from it, that sounds a hell of a lot bigger and better than any goal and outcome I could possibly imagine or accomplish in my external world. Not only that, they are internal actions and achievements that make those external actions and achievements, when they are meant for you, happen easier, faster, and more fruitful. It is how your internal world matches your external world as it is meant to, or rather the other way around, because that's how our experience works and how manifestation works. As above, so below, but more importantly, as within, so without. The above, our inner truths and origin, our highest selves, come first. The internal comes first. The below, the external, that follows from the above and the internal. Which is a nice segue, even though technically backwards, into our next type, expectation-based internal attachments. I think we all know what expectations are and are all well aware that they are often set too high when it comes to others and situations. At least those of us that are being honest with ourselves are. So I'm going to go with some examples here instead of an explanation. The first example can be applied to our personal values. And I'm actually going to use an example of a value that I often struggle with in terms of unrealistic expectations of others. Got to take a deep breath for that one. When we live by the value, treat others how you want to be treated, we have a tendency to not only expect that others practice the same value in general, resulting in us being treated well as well, but to expect that they will specifically treat us the way that we treat them. And when they don't, we get resentful and angry towards others, and potentially depressed or anxious internally in terms of others not treating us how we treat them. We get cynical and judgmental, and once again, potentially depressed or anxious internally when faced with too many others who don't practice that same value in general. These harsh and negative feelings externally and internally are all based on the internal expectations we are attached to not being met. The same applies to other values. The second example can be applied to our personal perspectives, whether they are based on our family, our education, our religion, our culture, or something else. When we hold a perspective, we have a tendency to not only expect others to agree with us in general, resulting in us being right all the time. Insert an eye roll here. But to expect that others don't have the right to expect us to change our perspectives to agree with theirs. Insert a far larger eye roll here. And when they don't agree or expect us to change our perspective, we get defensive. We get judgmental. We shut down. We shut out. We divide. We isolate. We fracture and break others in an effort to get them to see our way or to convince them that they are inherently wrong. The third example can be applied to the manifestation of our personal wants and needs. I would like to preface this one by stating that it is referring to a misguided method of manifestation that revolves around expectation and does not negate the concept of manifestation entirely. When we practice a method of manifestation in which we believe we will receive what we visualize, we have a tendency to not only expect that what we visualize will appear in our life, but to expect that it will appear without any internal work or external action being needed on our part. And when it doesn't appear in our life as visualized or at all, we give up. We lose hope. We lose faith. We lose trust. We get resentful and maybe even angry. Often, we even get impatient, tired of waiting, taking it upon ourselves to try to force the outcome we are attached to and the feelings we expect it to bring. I would actually like to point out that it just occurred to me that I think the same can be true of religion in some instances, where they kind of, have this blind faith that if you just ask for something, it will happen, or if you just believe, something will happen, and that you can just bypass this internal work or any action on your own part. And then, you end up, why isn't this happening? Why aren't you answering? Kind of feelings. And I think it's kind of the same thing. We can't bypass. And I'm sure some of you are probably wondering where I stand on why that is. So we're going to take a little side journey here. just to say that we need to remember that we are all connected, that we're all one. That not only are we connected and one with each other, but with Source. So if we are expecting this Source, whatever that might be for you, to make something magically happen just because you want it or you need it and you're asking for it, that Source has to do something to make that happen, right? So if we're one with Source, wouldn't that mean that we have to do something to make that happen? Just something to think about. Sorry for that. Wasn't expecting to get off track there, but it happens sometimes, and I went with it. There are more examples I could give, as well as more reactions I could list for the examples I've given and for a lot of others. I'm hoping that's not necessary, though, that I'm getting the point I'm trying to make across. That the problem with all of the examples I've given is the same. That when we are acting based on expectations, we aren't acting in alignment with our inner truths. That's the simple answer. But I'm gonna expand on that a little bit. We aren't treating others well because that is simply what we believe is right, but rather because we expect to get something out of doing so, to be treated well or the same in return. We aren't refusing to consider the perspectives of others because we simply believe that we are right, but rather because we expect others to change their mind instead of us having to do so. We aren't following those who teach manifestation or religion as merely visualization or blind faith or other quick fixes, simply because we believe they are right, that that is the right way to do things, but rather because we expect what we want or need to simply fall in our lap without having to do the internal work necessary to attract an external world that matches. Yeah, I'm kind of saying it here. Us humans can be a bit selfish and lazy. Don't get me wrong, though. It's not always intentional. Sometimes we have the best of intentions. But when others don't match our energy, our values, our perspectives, and so on, those pesky thoughts and emotions we were given as part of this human experiment and experience we incarnated into get in the way and get us off course. We as individuals and as a collective are not too far gone, though. I, for one, refuse to see that as a possibility. No matter what is going on in my own personal life, in my area, in my country, in the world, I refuse to lose hope in our ability to remember, to reawaken, to experience what we were meant to get out of incarnating into these human bodies, to fulfill our mission here for the benefit of all that are above, and all that are below. We can remember. We can reawaken. We can come together as one once again. We can get back in alignment. We can let go of old agreements, make new ones. We can drop those nasty external attachments to outcomes and internal attachments to expectations. We can rise, ascend, and expand into more than those who began this human experiment ever imagined. How do we do that? How do we repair the damage that has been done? How do we let go of our attachment to outcomes and expectations? I think this is where I'm going to call Kuan Yin in to help me out. Because I think I've been on my soapbox already enough. Let's let somebody else speak. Harushamakadi skaramakadi raskanamakadi skadakadi hadikadi kurushkanmakadi skananakadi skananana arasamakadi skadi. Be more mindful. Live in the present moment, in the here and now, enjoying and appreciating the slow and steady climb instead of being stuck in the never-ending cycle of chasing after a concept of bigger and better that will never be enough. Ari shumush kada makatikari skadawush kanakati hasush kanakati rushka makatikari skana makatikarush kanakatikaras kanakati rushka makatikari skamakadawush kanakati skamakatush kanakati. Replace expectation with anticipation. When you speak or act, let it come from your heart center instead of from a mind that expects something in return. And be open and curious to what the universe will match your efforts, your authenticity with. Ari shomush kadakati karas kurus kadakati aslamu kadakadis kadakati raskamode kadis kadapokush kadakati raskamokati kadis kadakati arashamakati kadis kadamokati kadis kadakati kadikitikirush kadakati kadis kadabakati kadakati. Understand there is no right or wrong. Instead of judging, shutting others down or out because they are different than you or think differently than you, pause and remember that we are all one, that we are all connected, that we all have similar origins, that more often than not, there's more than one right answer and more than one way to reach the same outcome or accomplish the same result. Arishkanakati rishkamakatukushkatakatabakaraskadakati Arshkanamakatikaraskanamakatikarushkatakatikadi. Uniting, combining knowledge will allow all to move forward and upward, while dividing, using knowledge against knowledge, will keep all moving backward and downward. Arashumushkadakadiskalamakadakadiskadakatukurskadamakadikadiskadakati. Arashkadamakadikadiskadakatikurskadamakadikadiskadakati. Arashamakadikadaskadakadikadiskadakatapukushkadakati. Arashamakadikadiskadakawushkadakadiskadakapurushkadakatapurushkadakati. Know that in order to have the life, the experiences and relationships that are meant for you, you have to reclaim who and what you are. You have to live a life that is in alignment with your inner truths. You have to live a life that is free of attachments to outcomes and expectations. You have to create an internal environment that is in agreement with the external environment that you seek, that you deserve, so that you may have it. Kuan Yin is complete. Thank you for joining us for our discussion of the 3 A's: alignment, agreement, and attachment. If you missed those first 2 A's, you can catch them on our YouTube channel. Just go back a few weeks. And just a reminder that you can get more in-depth coverage of a lot of the inner work covered by all 3 of those episodes, especially when it comes to raising your awareness of your inner truths through our Awareness Upgrade course, which is available through the offerings page on our website at www.yourgoddessawakening.com. You can also get it and other content for free by joining the paid section of our Awakening community through our website as well. Join us next Monday for the 3rd part of my personal 6 degrees of soul separation journey, and then Monday the 13th for the kickoff of our second half of winter, and it is a new theme: reconnect. 3 episodes that will be all about our connection with the concept of cycles, with our guides, and with ourselves. And throw in another C, as we are going to be kicking off our first 21-day challenge, all about making a commitment to yourself at the end of this week. So stay tuned for all of that fun stuff. Arishka Makadi.